The film begins with Sarah, who is sitting in a psychological assessment session evaluating a criminal named Max. We learn that Max is a criminal accused of torture, rape, and murder, and that his latest crime was the kidnapping, torture, and rape of a teenage girl. When Max was arrested, he pleaded insanity, and his lawyer claimed that he suffers from dissociative personality disorder. Therefore, the court appointed Sarah to write a report on his mental condition. At the start of the session, Max keeps flirting with Sarah, making her realize that he is pretending. However, he then suddenly tells her that he hears voices ordering him to commit those crimes. Sarah asks him about these voices, whether they come from inside his head or from outside. Max replies that they come from outside and that he can hear them through the television. The session then ends. Sarah goes with her neighbor Cliff to an art gallery, where she tells him about Max and says that she suspects he is faking insanity in order to receive a lighter sentence. After finishing their tour of the gallery, they return home together. Cliff tries to get closer to her, but she pushes him away and tells him that it is better for them to remain just friends, because she still has feelings for Benny, her former lover, who suddenly disappeared before their wedding. The next day, Sarah goes to her clinic and is surprised to find Walsh, Max's lawyer, asking her about her evaluation. When she refuses to tell him anything, he says that his client is clearly abnormal, and that if she writes anything in her report that contradicts this, it will make her appear biased against him. Sarah becomes angry at his words and throws him out of her office. After that, she goes to the supermarket to buy household supplies and hesitates while choosing a type of drink, until a man approaches her and suggests a certain kind. She thanks him politely and walks away, but he keeps insisting on getting to know her. Sarah tells him that she does not talk to strangers, and he replies that with that attitude she will never make friends. He adds that this is her last chance to get to know him, because once he leaves the supermarket they may never meet again. Because of his good looks, Sarah feels attracted to him and decides to give him her phone number. When she returns home, she is startled by a man calling her name, causing her to drop the bags from her hands. It then turns out that the man is Henry, her father, who has come to visit her and stay over. She refuses and tells him that since her mother's death, he has never asked about her. We learn that she has no paternal feelings toward him, she even calls him by his name instead of calling him Dad. In the end, she gives him some money and asks him to stay in a hotel, telling him that she will allow him to visit her at Christmas. Shortly afterward, Cliff comes by and asks if she has any drinks. At the same time, the young man she met at the supermarket calls her, tells her that his name is Tony, gives her his address, and invites her over to try a new type of drink he bought. Cliff is very curious to know who Sarah is talking to and whether she is going to meet him or not. Indeed, the next day Sarah goes to Tony's place. They drink together, and he asks her if there is someone in her life. She tells him there is no one and talks about her past love for Benny, who disappeared a month before their wedding. Tony tells her not to be sad, saying that Benny revealed his true nature and was not someone who deserved her. He then asks her where she was born, and she tells him that she was born in Albania, that her mother died in an accident when she was 5 years old, and that she was raised by her aunt in America afterward. She also explains that her father did not care about her after her mother's death, which is why their relationship is strained. Sarah realizes that she has told him everything about herself and tells him that her job as a psychiatrist makes her trust no one, yet strangely she trusted him from their very first meeting. When she asks him about his job, he tells her that he works as a surveillance camera installation technician and that he has loved this field since childhood. She grows closer to him and ends up spending the night at his place. The next day, she goes to conduct another session with Max. As soon as he sees her, he tells her that she looks as if she was happy and had a wonderful time the previous day. Sarah asks him whether he was the one who asked his lawyer to threaten her. He denies it, saying that Walsh is an idiot and that he did not ask him to do anything like that, because he is confident that he truly suffers from dissociative disorder. He adds that he knows she is a skilled doctor and will evaluate his condition correctly, otherwise, things will happen that she will not like. After the session ends, Sarah returns home and is surprised to find a box in front of her apartment. When she opens it, she finds a withered bouquet of flowers inside. She becomes upset and does not know who sent it. At night, she meets Tony again. He takes her to an amusement park, where they play a shooting game, and it becomes clear that he is very skilled. He wins the game and lets Sarah choose the prize she wants. When she asks him why he is so good at it, he tells her that he used to work as a police officer but quit. He offers to teach her how to play, and as soon as Sarah holds the gun, she recalls a childhood memory in which she sees someone falling from the top of the stairs. She faints, and Tony takes her home so she can rest. Sarah falls asleep, and when she wakes up, she sees Tony searching through her bag. When he notices that she is awake, he gives her a chamomile drink and says it will help calm her nerves. She becomes suspicious and asks him if he was the one who sent her the flowers. He denies it and asks her what kind of flowers she likes so he can send them to her later. Sarah remains doubtful, and they argue, after which she leaves him. Later, she regrets what she said and goes to reconcile with him. The next day, she goes to the clinic and finds a message left in her name. When she reads it, it says, "Read page 6 of the newspaper." When she does, she sees an obituary published under her name. She realizes that Max is threatening her with death, especially after she learns that the only witness in his case has died from a heroin overdose. Therefore, she goes to meet Walsh and tells him that she will report Max. He replies that Max is in prison and cannot do any of the things she is claiming. She tells him that Max must have asked someone outside the prison to carry them out. When she returns home, Sarah invites Tony over for lunch, but the food burns, and they laugh and joke together. Tony then tells her that the heater's screw has come loose and that she needs to call an electrician to fix it. At that moment, Cliff overhears them and realizes that Sarah is involved with someone. The next day, Sarah goes to meet Max, and he tells her that he did not commit those crimes, and that the voice in his head was the one that ordered him to kill and torture those women. He then says that the women he killed deserved to die, just like her. Sarah ends the session and decides to return home. At that time, her neighbor tells her that a package has arrived for her. When Sarah opens the package, she is horrified to find her cat murdered inside. Terrified, she rushes to report what happened, but the officer tells her that he is currently busy and advises her to turn to a private investigator instead, explaining that the person who did this is someone who knows her, either a friend or a lover. Sarah is forced to return home in a terrible state. She calls Tony and asks him to come to her, but he tells her that he is traveling to Boston and will return the next day. He apologizes for not being by her side. The following day, Tony goes to visit her, but she is angry with him and does not want to see him. He apologizes, and she allows him to come in. At that moment, Tony sees Cliff with her and asks who he is. She tells him that Cliff is her neighbor and her friend. Tony does not like Cliff being around her, and a fight breaks out between them, especially when Cliff tells Tony that he is the reason behind everything bad that has been happening to Sarah. It is clear that Cliff is deeply attracted to Sarah, which angers Tony, and he throws him out. Sarah becomes furious with Tony and tells him that he has no right to throw her friend out or interfere in her life in this way. She begins to suspect that he is the one behind everything that has been happening to her. Tony is upset by her words and tells her that she has every right to doubt him, then leaves her alone. The next day, Sarah decides to hire a private investigator named Billy and asks him to keep Tony under surveillance. Billy tells her to act normally around Tony and not let him feel that she suspects him. Indeed, Sarah goes shooting practice with Tony and pretends to treat him normally without showing any suspicion. That night, they walk together, play in the snow, and Tony confesses his love to her. Despite her doubts, she tells him that she loves him too, secretly wishing that he is not the one doing all of this to her. The next day, Tony tells her that he is traveling to Boston again. At the same time, Billy is following him and calls Sarah to inform her of all his movements. Suddenly, Billy discovers that Tony did not travel to Boston, but to Albania. He calls Sarah and tells her, and she is surprised by his trip to Albania, assuming that he is investigating her past. When Tony arrives there, Billy sees him hugging a woman and her daughter. He assumes that Tony is married and has a child, and calls Sarah to tell her what he saw, leaving her shocked. Meanwhile, Cliff sees a masked person rushing out of Sarah's apartment. He runs after him and chases him, but the masked man strikes Cliff on the head with a stick. When Sarah returns home and finds the door open, she does not think much of it and assumes that she forgot to lock it. Later, she receives a call from Tony asking her to go to his apartment and wait for him there. Sarah goes to his apartment, locks the door behind her, and begins searching through his belongings. She finds photos and news articles about herself and realizes that he has been watching her for a long time. She is shocked and terrified by what she discovers. Before she can leave, she is startled by a knock on the door and Tony's arrival. When he asks why she took so long to open the door, she tells him that she locked it because she was afraid, and makes an excuse that she received a call from work and has to leave quickly. When she returns home, she finds the door open again and panics. She carefully checks the apartment, and when she enters her bedroom, she sees a threatening message written in blood on her bed. She is utterly terrified. However, she pulls herself together, cleans the place, and then goes to take a shower. As soon as she finishes, the water heater falls and causes an electrical short circuit. Sarah realizes that what happened was an attempt on her life. She then goes to the police to report the incident and learns what happened to Cliff, so she visits him in the hospital. The police tell her that what happened was indeed an attempted murder, because someone deliberately loosened the heater screws. Sarah suspects Tony and tells them that he is the only person who has been entering her apartment recently. After that, she returns home, frightened and terrified. Suddenly, Tony breaks into her apartment and tells her that he is worried about her. She confronts him with her suspicions and tells him that he must be behind everything that has been happening to her. She admits that she knows he lied to her, that he was watching her, and that he did not travel to Boston. She asks him why he went to Albania, and most importantly, whether he is married. Tony decides to tell her the truth. He tells her that he is not married, and that the woman Billy saw is Benny's sister. He explains that he is a distant relative of Benny, and that Benny's family asked him to investigate Benny's disappearance. He admits that he was watching her at first, but later fell in love with her. He assures her that he is not responsible for what has been happening to her, and that he knows who is behind it, because he installed a camera in her apartment. When they watch the camera footage, they are shocked to discover that Sarah herself was behind everything, that she killed her own cat, sent the flowers to herself, and that she suffers from dissociative identity disorder. Sarah is stunned and begins to remember everything she did. She recalls her childhood, when her father abused her, and when her mother discovered it and reported him. Her father then fought with her mother, pushed her down the stairs, and forced Sarah to hold the gun and aim it at her mother, knowing that she was just a small child and would not be held accountable. At that moment, Sarah loses consciousness. When she wakes up, she sees her father standing beside her. She grabs the gun and tells him that she now remembers everything that happened and everything he did to her. Her father apologizes and tells her that he never meant to hurt her and that he wants to live peacefully with her. Tony tries to take the gun from her and asks her to let it go, assuring her that everything can be solved. Enraged, Sarah shoots him and tells him that now he knows what happened to Benny. We then learn that she killed Benny because he discovered her true nature. She then turns to her father and tells him that he destroyed her life and killed her mother, and that his time has come to die. She takes Tony's gun and kills her father with it, then wipes her fingerprints from the weapon and places it in Tony's hand. She destroys the surveillance footage and calls the police, reporting that Tony killed her father. She claims that she killed Tony in self-defense, and the police rule it as self-defense, allowing Sarah to walk free without punishment. A few days later, Sarah writes her report condemning Max, stating that he is not mentally ill and that he should be sentenced to death because he is a rapist. In the end, we see that Sarah and Cliff have become a couple, and no one knows whether she will do to him what she did to those before him.